Okay, part four, and now we're back to where we are at. So, yeah, when they heard Pipkin calling for help, as well as, calling out for Tom, Raph, Wally, and Jenny. And when they found him turned into a stone as one of the gargoyles. And yeesh. Yeah, calling for help while he's still holding on to that pumpkin as a statue. So the kids had to go down there to, go to that statue of Wally, who's also hanging on top. They can't reach him. So they can still hear him calling for help and calling out for their names. Wally starts to realize that it's gargoyle language, because he can talk when the water comes out of his mouth. Ugh. Or the wind whistles through the teeth. Gargoyle language. So they had to still try to get him, as well as get that pumpkin. So Wally got an idea, so he got Tom and Raph to lift him up on one side and the other, just to hold on to the feet, and upsy-daisy. Wally got to touch onto that pumpkin statue, and he talks to Pipkin. He's like, "Oh, Pipkin, what's happened to you?" And Pipkin tells him, "I'm dying, Wally." Yeah, he feels like he's dying because of that actinitis or whatever, that deadly disease. Although Wally said, "You are not. What about all the stuff? Can't remember now. It's just stupid." Well, he did say, "You are not dying." Although Pipkin didn't tells him that he tried. They all tried. They did their best. But Wally begs him not to leave before the rain was going to stop. So, yeah, it was raining. And Wally asked him if he remembers the time when all the fireworks in Wally's room lit up the house, and it was very smoky. I'm like, "What? Well, you got the house on fire by fireworks. It really smoked up the house," it sounds like. And Wally mentioned to Pipkin that Pipkin took the blame for Wally. And Wally never thanked him for that. Man, Pipkin's a really swell guy. Even take the blame that he didn't do just to help his friends out. Shows how much of a very sweet friend he is. Although Wally almost fell off when he was holding that statue, that pumpkin stone broke and it turned back to a regular pumpkin and flew off, and then the spirit of Pipkin is free from a statue form, and he goes after the pumpkin and grabs it, and then Wally lands onto the statue, which came to life, and it starts going after Pipkin. So the kids go riding on the gargoyles as well, and they go after Pipkin with Mount Shroud flying with them. Just to get Pipkin and his pumpkin. And then they had to go through the stormy clouds and their final destination. I'm not sure what era they're at now, because their final destination, Mexico. Yeah. And guess the holiday they're celebrating in Mexico. It's Dia de Muretos Mueretos, or, for those who know about that, sorry for mispronunciation about that. It's the Day of the Dead. If you guys are seeing movies like The Book of Life or Coco, the Pixar film, you will probably be familiar with the Day of the Dead. The Dia de Muertos Muertos. It's like a celebration as well as remembering those who have passed away. I had to write it down. I don't think they got through it all, but I don't think they got to the origins. They just saw all the decorations. They see people walking over, visiting the graveyards where people, like how people would go visit their relatives in their graves. It's kind of like that. And there's also some fireworks starting. And then reading some newspapers. It was all covered in bones. And then there was some cookies made of skulls. Yeah, everything you can... I'll leave the link down below. It's actually a pretty interesting, fun holiday, but it's also very, very wholesome and sweet holiday as a way to remember their ancestors and their loved ones. So the Day of the Dead is a it's a deeply spiritual and ancient tradition for remembering and celebrating deceased loved ones. Although there is a thing they have they call the Arbol de la Vida, which is the tree of life. So it's a form of Mexican folk art that can be part of Mexican folk art, that could be part of these celebrations. Well, kind of like altars in a way. Good example is, with Miguel's family in Coco, where they got all the pictures of the family. It's kind of like that. So, I don't think they got to the origins. Maybe they mentioned that in the book. But, you see, its origin lies in a blend of ancient Aztec rituals, honoring the dead, and the Catholic holidays of All Day Saints and All Souls Day, introduced by Spanish coloners. So, the Aztec celebration originally dedicated to the goddess Mictlantecuhtli, sorry for not pronouncing it right, also known as the Lady of the Dead. It believed that death was a continuation of life, and that the deceased could be in the afterlife. Still gonna go into this one still. So this pre-Hispanic tradition evolved after the Spanish conquest, merging with Catholic observances to create the modern festive celebration of honoring deceased loved ones. Not only is it a celebration, but also remembering, but it's also to honor. Honor! Or do it in the, I'm going to do the Avatar reference. Honor! Or, anyone can do it better than me, I guess. So yeah, that holiday traced back to the Aztec Empire, honoring the deceased ancestors with rituals that lasted for a month. So, beliefs about death. Yeah, the Aztecs believed that death was an integral part of life, that the souls of the departed continued to exist in an afterlife, which they could visit the living. So, the Catholic influence. Well, the Spanish conquest, when Spanish coloners arrived, they suppressed some indigenous practices, but also blended them with their own Catholic traditions, with, All Saints' Day and All Souls' Day. The Aztec rituals were moved to coincide with the Catholic holidays of November 1st and 2nd. So this resulted in a syncretic holiday where indigenous I'm sorry for mispronouncing it. I'm terrible at it, sorry. Please forgive me. Their beliefs about death as a tradition and Catholic observances come together. So the modern is Dia de los Muretos is a joyful celebration where families honor and remember their deceased loved ones, believing that the souls of the dead return to visit. Now you get to know all about it. I'll probably leave the links about Dia de los Muretos, or Day of the Dead, in the description, in the link description down below, like I did with the other parts of the Halloween tree review. So, okay, back to the Halloween tree. So I hope the book did mentions about all this. So they see like little dolls carrying coffins, and then they see people building some coffins. And they check the newspapers. It's all full of bones. And then they saw Pipkin dressed like a skeleton. And then they landed into a pile of straws. And then Mountron dresses himself, acting like he's a sugar skull seller, giving them away for free. It's like, give me your name and I'll give you a skull. And they all said their names. Tom, Ralph, Wally, and Jenny. They all get their own sugar skulls, which are for free because Mountron was dressing up as one, as a seller. A guy giving away sugar skulls. I never tried a sugar skull, but they sounded like they actually taste good from what I heard. Hopefully I can try those. Although, Tom suggests that they better hurry as they have no time to waste. And when Mountron checks on his pocket watch, it says, "Yes, All Hallows Eve is slipping away. We must find Pipkin before it's over." Then he summons all the piñatas and has a wind blow, and he turns himself into a piñata. And then the kids come out with their blindfolds and bats and whack some piñatas. Piñatas. And wax Mountron as a piñata, and all the bats come out, and then all the bats takes Tom, Ralph, Wally, and Jenny to the graveyard. And when they arrive, although the kids thought it was fun, Although Maltron suggests that playtime's over, as they now have to get Pipkin out of the catacomb. Yeah. And then he says, Simon says, go get him. And Tom speaks to Maltron and says, okay, but after this, we take Pipkin back. Well, yeah, Maltron tells him to bring back his pumpkin if the kids can take Pipkin back with him. So, yeah, basically the deal is that he can take the pumpkin back while Pipkin comes back to his friends. So, I think I'm going to stop right here as well. So, yeah, I got a lot of stuff to do as well. So, I'll see you guys in part 5, I think, as we get to the more lesson about the stuff and then how it ends. So, see you in part 5 review.